Hey, welcome back to What the Phuc
How's it going?
with Roberto and Phuc. And as you know, this is a show about entrepreneurship, about chasing the American dream, a reality show about our lives, and hopefully we'll catch up to the present very soon because some stuff happened recently this week that was amazing, dude. You know when something is going to work out. Well, this week was the week for me. When I knew Phuc Labs, my new company, was going to be a big hit. In fact, the biggest hit of my entire life.
That's a big thing.
I've never been
doing stuff for
I've
a
never
while.
been part of a rocket ship. You work so hard, and this is going to be a rocket ship. I can feel it already. I can't wait to catch up to the present, but we got to catch up to the present first, right? So, but don't worry, the past is just as fun. And in fact, you're going to love the past because this is where we talk about my second company. So the first company, as you know, I had started in college when I was 20 years old out of Harvard. I was a junior in Harvard trying to do the Facebook Mark Zuckerberg thing where I started a company during college. It becomes a big hit, become a millionaire. At some point we were offered an opportunity to maybe sell it. But we took $20 million of additional funding after the first $2 million we had raised during the first phase. We had then moved to these huge offices in Faneuil Hall, spent $1 million a year, grew to 120 people, did the whole .com thing, and as the whole .com thing kind of fizzed through, I left the company before that happened, but the company raised $30 million more, so $15 million that company, and then I got in the mail 2 years ago a letter saying we have sold the company for $12 million, and you get $0 out of it. Because of course, I mean, $50 million is ahead of me. That's how much the investors put in. So, on paper, I was worth quite a bit, and I can say my company sold for $12 million. Does that sound nice?
Yeah.
Sound good?
No, it's still it's
and I got $0 out of it.
What you get, like you created something that had that kind of value, so it is what it is. At the end of the day, yeah.
Yes, but I made a mistake, man. I basically didn't. Okay, so I've been listening to this podcast. This guy named Naval. You should listen to it. It's about how to get rich. Okay, do you know how to get rich, man? Do you know the secret how to get rich? I didn't know the secret how to get rich. I just kind of like hustled. I thought it was about hustling. It's not about hustling. Actually, it's about something called leverage. Yeah. And I'm going to interpret it for you, okay?
Yep.
Is this okay?
We talked about it. We started talking about it last episode.
Okay. Yeah, we started talking about leverage. So here's the leverage I got from my first company, right? So my first company, there's actually a couple of types of leverage. One type of leverage we talked about was code, where I had a code base I can copy and make a new company. And when I did consulting, that code base just got better and better. And I had a branding of my consulting company called Zoomlane, Zoomlane. And I was going to take these libraries, and I said, one day I'm going to take these libraries of how to build a website, I'm going to copy and paste into my new company. And I actually literally did that. So Updown, my second company, as you may remember from the last podcast, I had been consulting for, let me put the time horizon back. So 1997, I was 20 years old. I was class of 1998 at Harvard. I had started Crimson Solutions.
Okay.
We basically became Experience.com, and I left that company in 2002, roughly. So that's about 5 years. So that, like I said, every movie of your life, every company that you start is essentially a movie that you do for 5 years. And unfortunately, that baby didn't work out, and I had to kind of part with it. And then the second movie in my life was this consulting, where I was working for the man. I figured I didn't want to do that, and that was from 2002 to 2006. Okay, and then 2006, not only did I start Updown and met these new friends via Craigslist of all places, a bulletin board to meet startups. And like I told you before, I had this startup dating that I met with a couple of groups, and some of them didn't do what I expected, and we didn't get along. There was no chemistry in some of the groups, and that happens all the time. Like I said, when you're trying to basically get, like I said, escape Vietnam as a recap, and on a boat, and like you're trying to, I'm the either the boat captain or the co-captain or whatever. We're trying to get on a boat to go on a pirate treasure hunt. Maybe we're not escaping Vietnam, but we're hunting for the American dream, right? And you got to make sure that you trust the people. In 2006, I also got married to Sherry, right, my wife. my wonderful wife, who I had been dating since I was 19. I mean, she was 19 and I was 22. And so, yeah, 2006. I was 30.
Yeah, back in the days.
And right, and I also, so, but like, you know, people at 30, like, okay, when you get married and stuff, what are you gonna do? You can get a regular job.
Oh, you settle in. Basically, is what everybody expects.
So and I had done that, and I played golf for a whole summer. I talked about that. I messed around. I did some side gigs. I did all this hustling. And like I said, to be an entrepreneur, there's only one question you have to ask yourself. Remember that question, Roberto?
What is it?
How do you know if you need to start a company? Remember
Yes.
that? Can you imagine yourself doing something
Definitely.
else? Remember that?
Yeah.
And I couldn't imagine myself doing anything else, and I couldn't imagine myself, just like you couldn't imagine, you know, not marrying anyone but Magali, your wife, and I married Sherry, but I also started a new baby, and the new baby was the new company, and the new company was called Up Down, up like in up the stairs and down the stairs, and we had raised $1 million from my partner. His name was Michael Reich, who was at Harvard Business School, and he had gone back on vacation during December of his first year at Harvard Business School. And he was going to basically come back with $1 million, and then we could start the company, because he had met this person named Yahim Shas, who was a billionaire, and maybe maybe not a billionaire, but at least a couple $100 million.
I'd say.
And he was a super angel investor, right? Gave us $1 million to try to do something. And you know why he really liked it, man? I'm not sure if I mentioned the reason why he really liked Up Down. Yahim Shas.
Yeah, because like he saw himself in your friend.
Yes, but the idea. Why do you think he liked the idea so much? So the idea was this: he had been investing his own money, and when he was investing money, he's like, "This is just a casino, man, just like the stock market, just like so." This is what this October 14th, 2021. So Robinhood. You know, Robinhood just went
yes.
public. Yeah, the company that we use an app to
trade
trade stocks.
I don't really like Robinhood because of what they did.
Yeah, you don't like Robinhood, okay? But imagine Robinhood in 2006 when we started Up Down, and essentially it wasn't your money, but it was fake $1 million of fake money. Okay, so you have $1 million of fake money. You can log into Up Down. And you can play a free game, a free casino game, where you can buy and sell stocks, learn how to buy and sell stocks. And every month, we gave out a couple $1,000 in prize money, $5,000 in prize money. Okay? And the best person, the number one person who beat the S&P 500. You know what the S&P 500 is? So S&P 500, S, the letter S, and P, Standard & Poor's 500, is essentially the top 500 companies on the stock market and the average of them, right? And so when you invest in what's called an index fund, or basically the stock market in general, you say, oh, the stock market went up. That's the Dow Jones. That's the S&P 500. That's the NASDAQ. These are essentially just indexes of the largest companies in the respective categories, right? So these are basically the biggest companies in Standard & Poor's list of 500 companies are the best companies. And so, literally, so Up Down was essentially the Robinhood, but for free, for basically college students to run contests and say, hey, I can do better than you, man. Let me challenge you for a weekly contest. Let me challenge you for our class. So we would have professors at Harvard, MIT, BU, BC, all these different colleges say, hey, I'd like to run my semester on trading stocks and use your platform to basically teach my students about buying and selling stocks.
Like you get like the real life experience right there. I mean, like using your platform.
Yeah, and like I could see exactly why people love Robinhood. It's just a video game, man. Like stocks. Do you ever invest in stocks?
Yeah,
do you know what stocks are about?
We played around.
Yeah, tell me about your experience with stocks.
I've never I like first of all, like as a good student, I was severely in debt at the beginning, and then because, like, it's okay, I'm building my credit, it's fine. And then you just like kept going, and I had an okay job. Like back in the days, I was making like $18 an hour, maybe like 15 years ago. And so it was fine. Everybody, like most of my friends were like working all these restaurant gigs and whatnot. And then I was always broke. Always had like some owed some money to my credit cards, Visa and MasterCard. Like, oh my God, like I've like most of us, I'm guessing, we've been on that for a little while with those minimum payments. And then I'm like, then that's when I started meeting, going out with Magali and everything, and then that's when she told me, like, what are you doing? Like, what do you mean, what am I doing? Like, because you're making a decent amount of money to owe this much. Like, how about instead of going to restaurants out every day, we start doing some groceries, and then it's just like she kind of organized all my finances, and then we started investing in things. I remember she got into her boss was the big investor here. He told her, like, put money in Bank of America, which is one of like the big ones, and like it's too big to fail. Your money is safe. If you don't want to gamble it away, put it into a bank, stocks, and.
Oh my God! What year was this? Don't tell me it's before the financial crisis.
No. This was like about like 15 years ago. So it was fine. That thing went off like at least like a solid like percentage of profits and everything. But since it does feel like gambling. And, you know, like, before you didn't have, like, okay, I can just lose a couple of grand and it's fine. Like, you're crazy. Like, a couple of grand when you're a student, I think it's the difference between paying your rent and eating rice and sausage the rest of the month. So it was like, okay. And then as soon as it started making some profit, like, you sold it, get it back out. And then you can put, like, maybe the profits back in. But it's not the same game anymore. So it is, like that gambling aspect of it is pretty interesting.
Yeah, and like the stock market boys, the people on Wall Street, they think they're so smart. They dress in fancy suits. But I really, literally, you know, wrote a copy of the stock market. So here's how it works, right? So up, down, we would give you $1 million. And going back to why Yahim invested in the company. So imagine you can spy on everyone. And you can see everyone's, like, the way they think. Because everyone's like a lemon. You know what a lemon is? You ever hear about a lemon? You know what a lemon is? A lemon, basically, it's like a... I'm not sure if I think it's a real creature. It's a real. Oh yeah. They just follow what's in front of them, and if they just follow. So if a lemon jumps off a cliff, the next one just keep jumping off the cliff, even though they have.
This is a Nintendo video game on that.
So he was saying,
it was like that.
I'm not sure if you remember me saying, but I was an economics major in college, and that's exactly some of the theories. It's basically the theory of behavioral economics. Where, like, if you can predict the herd, the power of the herd, right? Yeah. These cows, you know, the stampede of, like, people buying and selling. And that's all these meme stocks. You know what I'm talking about? The meme stocks that are happening today with, like, I'm not sure if you know about the GameStop situation or AMC, where essentially people go on these discussion boards and they say, buy the stock, because there's a lot of people shorting it.
Well, they figured out how to play the game, and like, let's pay attention to this thing that you guys have been doing for a while, and then they ended up beating them at it, and now they wanted to regulate and had all these, like, random rules that just benefited the older people as well, like the ones that have been in the game for longer. It got really weird.
Right, and the community, like, they were playing so crazy games where they all herd up, right? And they all, like, stampeded the short sellers. And like, boom, get out of the way, stampede. And that's what Yahim wanted, right? Yahim wanted, if we can get, like, a couple 100,000 of these amateurs, of course these guys are amateurs. These are the people I want to track. I want to track the crazy nutsos who aren't professionals, who are going to make emotional buys and sells. And we can see what these guys are selling on up-down, right? It's basically a trade. We trade your data for insight that we can monetize. Sound familiar to you?
I think I've heard of it.
Sound familiar? You've heard of Facebook, right? So we're a social network for finance. But the idea was, hey, if you can make money by giving advice and selling advice maybe, or having these guys open, like, brokerages. So we actually had another website called onlinebrokerages.com. Online broker account, and we would, like, have comparisons between the different E-Trades and Scottrades and Fidelities and other things. But basically it's an entrance to the casino. And the entrance to the casino was basically, like, a couple weeks, a couple of, like, you know, financial audits of your books, making sure that you knew what you're doing, blah, blah, blah. All the stuff that Robinhood essentially automated. And make it so that, because guess what, dude? You know what these guys are selling when you make a trade on Scottrade and E-Trade? You know how much it costs them?
Pennies.
Nope.
Nothing.
Less. Nothing. Air. No, I'm not kidding you. I literally know. I know how it works. So basically, we got a data feed from the NASDAQ. So that costs a certain amount. $1,000 a month. So you can use that for your whole firm. You can use that for Scottrade. Use that for E-Trade. You can use that for up-down. Okay. We got a data feed from the Dow Jones, the Dow Jones, the NASDAQ, and New York Stock Exchange, right? And then we could also get Forex And we can get all these other data feeds that we just essentially pay for. And then the trades themselves, all you needed to do was register as a brokerage. Then literally you have the right to update this database record.
Okay.
And this database record says, I own this stock or I don't own this stock, and here's some money. And you actually have to do, the processing of the transfer, all that stuff, right? But it's all free. It doesn't cost them anything. And literally they charge you $30 a trade. You know that? Back then? Maybe more. Maybe $70 a trade. $50 a trade back then. A lot of money. Like even $100 a trade if you were at like a premium brokerage and they held your hand, they give you advice, but all that was basically concierge service. And that's what we're trying to sell back then, which is like, this account, and every time we did that, we made a commission, like a couple $100, a couple $1,000. But think about it, dude. Think about it. Do you think that was really good monetization? Let's say you have, 100 friends. How many of them do you think care about stocks?
5.
Okay. How many of them do you think are introverts versus extroverts? Let's say 100 stockbrokers.
Like it's.
How many of them are introverts?
Introverts, maybe like 1%.
How many of them are secretive and they don't want to share all their sites, their secret stuff?
Out of the 100, so definitely there's like at least like 20 of them. They'll be like in their own corner doing their thing.
Right. So are you likely to share your secret sauce? No. In other words, if you're the best stock, so that's a quandary, right? So like it's a social network where only 5% of the people care about it. And of the 5% of people, maybe some of them don't want to share too much, because it's a little bit trade secret, a little secret sauce, and that's what we couldn't get over. But we did well. We actually got. I was on TV. We had used the code that I had done from before, and it built on top of it. We did really fast. We actually got to several 100,000 people. I was on Fox, CNBC. Maybe you can drop some tapes.
I'll look it up.
We had done very well.
I'll check them out.
And like hundreds of thousands of people were using us, and it was supposed to be like the next big thing. And we raised another $1 million. So basically, Yahoo, like the attraction so much, we raised another $1 million, and then we basically kept growing and growing. And but the thing is, we can keep the users, we can keep them. Because after they do the investment club or they do the contest with their friends, why would they stay? Right? Yeah. That's another reason why it failed.
Like there was no other value than the fact that you're using it on the spot, and then that was it.
Yeah, and like that's the problem with someone like a Facebook, right? Let's say you just going back to the social network, like being an owner of essentially a Facebook-like service, but doing it for finance. A different, it's a different niche, but it's the same kind of idea. Like, so the issues that these guys have, I can see exactly why it happens, because what you're trying to do is keep these users on your platform. I mean, we couldn't keep them, but what keeps them on the platform? What do you think keeps people on the platform, Roberto?
I thought it was like at some point it becomes part of your routine, but at the beginning it might have been like just the novelty of what was uploaded. What is this individual putting up, or like that? Just like the need to look at other people's lives.
Okay. So let me ask you actually another question in a different way, right? Let's say, you have a party, okay? And the people at the party start leaving slowly, okay? Who stays at the party last? The people who really want to be there. The people who are the extremists, the 1%, right? And what typically is the 1%? The outliers. They're loud, they're obnoxious, or maybe they're not obnoxious, maybe they're inspirational, right? But they basically breed flame wars. They breed emotion, whether they be running towards pleasure, which is what some people try to do, right? You try to run towards I want to be healthier, right? Or run away from pain, which is I don't want to be fat. So, but they're both emotions, and you have to sell these emotions. And the 1%, those people who stay, who then build a base. So we started having groups prepare, right? Groups that would do trading and all this stuff, and they're all fringe. They're all Forex, day trading, or we're going to do this, and they're all doing gossip, and they're all basically having the same behavior as the current Facebook.
Okay. Yeah.
So Facebook, it's not that they're extremists. everywhere is that extremists collect on Facebook. Right? People who want to talk at the water cooler, who want to basically say things that are obnoxious or loud, or because they want to make a point, or because they feel hurt about something, they want to say something. And ultimately, all you hear is an echo chamber of the 1%. Because everyone else is gone. They looked at the picture, they look at their entertainment, they left the party, and the only one that's arguing left are the communists and the Republicans and the Democrats and all the politicians and all the people who are, deep into UFOs, all the people into QAnon, all the people who are left partying 3 a.m., 4 a.m. when normal people are gone. You see that?
But there's a lot.
Literally,
of them.
I was running.
I feel like there's a lot of these people like that. I feel like that's part of the issue. Is like now with Facebook, and now they're all sitting together in the same spot in your same party. They're just there now, and they're like, huh, and then they start like gathering.
Yeah. So have you ever been pissed off at something that happened on Facebook or like Twitter, or Instagram, or on a social network? Like, tell me an example of that. I'd love to hear that.
Like after a while, like I decided to stop engaging with people on any of the social networks. Like there's always like your aunts or whatever. They're like, oh, what a beautiful picture. Thank you. And that's it. But then there's other people, like, for instance, like we're here in Dominican Republic, there's some people that are asking like, oh, where can I get this thing? And then there's, out of like the 100 comments, there's maybe 3 that actually tell you where the place is, and the other 97 are people knowing better. Like, you don't need that, you need this. I'm like, buddy, like you're missing the point here. You're like, I asked a specific question, and this applies to like whether it be health, whether it be tools, or whether it be like anything you need. There's always somebody that has a better way of doing it, and he's going to tell you how to do it regardless of what you asked. And they just need the attention, and as soon as somebody engages them, they go off, and that's like, their day is done. This is awesome. This is what I was expecting. I was waiting for this moment my whole week. And then they go, and you see like 50 comments later, nothing's going on. And every single time it's like this. At the beginning, like I said, I used to engage them like, what the hell is wrong with you? And because I do believe that the smaller the town, the more chances you have to bumping into that person, just out of curiosity, just to see if they actually say the things that people would say to you to your face, like behind the screen while they're writing down to your face, and it never happens. But then I was like, you know what, this is not healthy. I'm not gonna read these comments anymore, and I moved on. But that was like one of the times I got like really pissed on Facebook, and especially now with all the COVID and whatnot, and it just got like to some point where it's just crazy, and you can't really engage any people anymore. And honestly, right now at this point at Facebook as well, you have like a certain age range that are the most active on it. So like try to convince like your 85-year-old aunt that the video of deep fakes that she saw of I don't know, Trump or any other like known person wasn't him. Explain deep fakes to a 95-year-old person.
Well, you can't. I mean, the thing is, it's a new technology. And it's something that, see, when I was doing those things, I wasn't trying to be evil. I wasn't trying to screw society. I wasn't trying to screw. I just trying to make a living, man. I was trying to just get a little bit longer retention so I can make a business. So I can just make a little bit more money so I don't have to lay up my staff and actually do something substantial. And I can see from that point of view. But I can also see from the point of view of the individual who owns the company. So the question, I guess I ended the last episode like, who's the man? Yep. Okay, at what point do you become the man? They, them, they do this to you. They do this. They think that like at some point, I must have been they. It's like, I must have been they or him or her or it or them. But the person who screwed
you're somebody's
everybody.
They.
And I can see from their, I can see their perspective, because I can see retroactively all the things that I thought and I did, and now I think about it, it's actually pretty not so great. So let me name some of the bad stuff I actually tried to do or thought about. Okay, so one of the things you have to do is you have to create a ton of content.
All the time.
Okay, so yeah, a lot of content all the time. So one of the things you can do is you can create content by spinning content. Okay, so spinning content is taking content from many different players and like a jigsaw puzzle, putting it together in a different way as if it's a robot, right? And then I can see someone at Facebook kind of doing that, right? Saying you take this, you take that, and you combine together, and then you can make new content. But I also can see people putting stuff in front of people's news feeds, for example, and seeing which one's going to trigger them more. Okay, so these are all experiments that we do. But that's what an engineer is supposed to do. They look at numbers, and they see how can I make something scale.
Well, that's what
how can I do something
Facebook was
once,
in trouble, right?
And have it work
For recently, like there was this lady that came out saying that Facebook would always choose like the triggering information regardless of the benefits to society, as long as they keep you engaged on the platform.
And I was guilty of that, right? And the thing is, when you do a Facebook business or some type of business where you rely on ads, it's actually a lot different than you think. Okay, so what you don't want a few engaged users. Let's say I have like 100,000 people who come every day listen to my podcast, right? You want let's say you would want 100,000 of those people maybe to go and do a lot of content creation. But the job of the 100,000 people that you want to curate and have amplifying your website are the people who bring in the 100 million people who feel outraged or inspired by what you say, and they come in that one time. So you would think that, hey, for me, Roberto, you as a customer, if you come in 15 times to up down, that I would actually make more money on you, Roberto, versus someone who comes in 2 times. Okay, let's say someone comes to my website. Let's say someone comes to up down, or someone comes to Facebook 2 times a month, versus like every day, right? To the advertiser, you want to have that person see your ad once a month. So both people are equally valuable. Okay, unless you have many advertisers, you can kind of swap in every day, right? And that's what Facebook essentially does. So they try to rotate these advertisers, but ultimately for us it was a limited number of advertisers. In Facebook you can advertise, but maybe we weren't so big enough. And also the way you scale these businesses, and for those small businesses out here, and if you want to do an ad business, this is actually how it works, right? So what you do is you can always start at first base for free. So the first thing you want to do is you want to join something called Google Adsense. Do you know what Google Adsense is?
I do.
Yeah. So maybe explain to what Google Adsense to the customers.
Yeah. Well, Google Adsense is what gives you a notion of everything that's being searched for, and kind of like makes you see towards where you should aim your marketing strategies.
Actually, that's AdWords.
Okay, my bad.
It's AdWords. Okay, so actually, it won't explain AdWords. So AdWords is basically where advertisers can go and bid for, like you said, keywords, and then buy what? Well,
you buy your spot. Basically, you're like bidding constantly on different words that people are using or searching for.
Yeah, but where would these ads show up, Roberto? Where do you think
everywhere. Well, especially if you're using Google Chrome or these, like for sure they appear everywhere on the sites.
But where?
On everything.
No. Wait, so when you search on Google, you see something, right? So that's basically so-called search. Okay, you can pay for search. Okay, but you can also see it on other people's websites, right? So that's AdSense. So AdSense is, let's say I have a website like called, let's say What the Phuc. We get 1 million people, which hopefully we'll do one day. If I want to, I can literally go to Google, log in as whatever, say I own this website called What the Phuc. They'll give me a piece of code, and I'll put this piece of code on the website, and within a few hours, I start getting paid. And the way you start getting paid is Google will then go to your website, and they'll crawl it like a robot. And they'll see what your web page is about. They'll see what your content is about. And back then, you would put where you want your ads to be. But in today's world, Google itself would put it on for you using
the more
AI.
efficient.
Okay. Yeah, because what they do is they go ahead and change your web page and stick it, like you said, stick it on the side, stick it the way they think would work, even pop-ups. And literally what happens is you have, let's say, what they call an RPM. So every 1,000 page views is a revenue per milli. A milli is 1,000. Okay. So let's say I have 1,000 page views, which is 1,000 pages that were shown to a user, right? You would make a certain amount of money. And so you would make something like $5. Sometimes you make $20. And the really good websites, you might make maybe $50 or even $100 per 1,000 page views. Back then, so when someone watched TV, you would say, hey, people watching TV on my Super Bowl ad, and this is how much it costs per impression for someone to watch a TV ad. You do the same thing for the internet. And you go to Google, you sign up for this thing, and you automatically get a check. And up down at the max, I think we were making about $50,000 a month, $40,000 a month. But that was the max we ever made. You know, and the way you can think about it is every employee is about $10,000 a month. Okay, so think about it. So that's just a rule of thumb. Every employee is $10,000 a month because salary, cost of an office space, HR, overhead with computers and healthcare and all this other stuff, taxes, all this stuff. It ends up being about $100,000. Let's say $100,000 per person per year, right? So you can only have a 5-person company, 4-person company, but that was the best we did, and that was basically with a lot of buying traffic that costs maybe like 70 total for all the operations. So like 40K, 30K because we had 4 or 5 people, plus 30K for ads, and it just couldn't work.
Yeah, it's not sustainable like that.
It couldn't work. Yeah, and so the only way it would work is you have 1 billion people like Facebook. So that's why only a few social networks ever made it out of that time. So how I said like everybody wanted to do a dating website back then? Everybody around that time wanted to do a social network, and I wanted to do a social network, and we ended up doing a social network, and other social networks failed all.
Man, I think I'm pretty sure I still have a high five somewhere, a profile somewhere around the net. There was so many of those. Yeah, that's true. Like there was so many of them, and now what's Facebook swallowed them all. Or just crushed them.
Well, they didn't swallow them all. So let me give you kind of a little bit more history. Okay, so in case those who don't know the history behind it, right? So the idea was this: back then there was actually something called Friendster. Yeah. You may remember also MySpace. Do you remember?
I do, because that one was a good one. So if you were in music and everything, because at some point I think they got sued by somebody, and actually the stuff you put on it was yours. It stayed yours.
Yeah, so it was a awesome platform. So was Friendster. And they're actually better than Facebook, but the only difference was this: they had the ability to do fake names.
Oh, okay. So you didn't have to guarantee you were the individual that was behind this. Okay, yeah.
Right. So here's the deal, right? So let's say I want to check out the girl in the dorm next to mine, right? Remember Facebook was created at the dorms at Harvard, and then eventually spread to other campuses, right? So I wanted to see the picture of Jane Doe. I know Jane Doe's real. Jane Doe is on Facebook because in order to sign up for Facebook back then, you may have remembered, you have to use a university email. So that you had to validate you were actually Jane Doe at Harvard, because you couldn't sign up for Facebook without an email from a university. Why would you use your fake name? Because the only reason you sign up is so your university friends could see you. So what they did was they got all the college students to sign up to date each other, okay, to share pictures, to do events, and then guess who everybody grows up to be? Adults, and then over time, they became adults. But also, who do adults want to communicate with? Their kids, right, on Facebook. Maybe their brothers or sisters, or maybe their future friends and people who are younger than them. So it became a beachhead for them, and we didn't really have much of a beachhead except maybe universities who were kind of. So you have to have some type of secret sauce, and it wasn't because Mark Zuckerberg is such a genius. He just
had the timing thing that we were talking about.
Yeah, and the timing thing. Did I tell you about the Idea Lab thing, right? So you know who Idea Lab is? Okay. So you can look this up. Around the same time as when I started my first company, around the 2000s, there's a company called Idea Lab. Idea Lab sounds exactly like the name. They come with ideas. They're a bunch of entrepreneurs, and they basically incubate new ideas, and they strategically measure the success of their ideas and which ones work out, which ones don't work out, and why, and all that stuff. And they would get to a certain scale, and they would have a venture capitalist or some investor invest in the company, and they'll keep growing it. They'll hire the management, all this stuff. But they're basically like a professional incubator, a professional company maker, a professional incubator. And so they measured why companies are successful. And this is actually a TED Talk you can look up. The founder actually compiled this data. And let me give you a survey, okay? The reasons why companies are successful, right? List them in order. Is it because of the leader, the founder, right? The founders, the leader of the team, Mark Zuckerberg or Bill Gates or me or something like that, right? Is it because of the amount of funding, the investors that they have? They have so much money that no one could ever defeat them. You know, Andreessen Horowitz, Sequoia, they just pound it with investor money, and that's how you win. You know, you have to race to the finish line. Is it because of the amazing idea? You know, that idea, no matter what, would work, right? Is it because of the timing? Is it because at that point it just had to happen at that point? You know, like this, it's inevitable, right? Or is it because of, I don't know, the product, right? They have a product that's amazing, that is well engineered, that they have really good science behind it. It's the basic science is amazing. What do you think is the reason? I think it's
timing and product.
Number one reason.
Like a combination of those two. Like the amount of money you throw at it, I don't think it affects. You have the things like, what was this? There's like a streaming service from Jay-Z or somebody else. That thing didn't want to count, and he has tons of money.
Yep. Epic bombs. So many epic bombs in the internet. Like
Yeah.
we work like the epic bomb. You know. Yep. And so many bombs.
Mhm.
So you're right. Actually, you have a really good intuition. You
Thank
should be
you.
a businessman. You did better than me, because think about the timing, right? So what is the timing? Well, the timing is YouTube.
Yep.
YouTube sold in 19 months for $1 billion. 19,
Damn.
19. Right? I don't care how
No,
good you are. You're not that good. You're not that good. Why did they win? Why do you think YouTube won?
I don't think there was anything else like it, actually. Like just straight up.
There was broadcast.com.
Oh, yeah?
No, there was
Okay.
broadcast.com. There's a bunch of other companies like that. Yeah.
Huh.
It's because at that point they were the most recent iteration of that idea. In broadband, so basically the internet, it used to be dial-up. Remember that?
Into the back of my
It
skull.
had become dial, and then it stopped being dial-up. At that point, it became what? Cable, or even
You
like
can even receive phone calls. I
yeah,
remember like that
fiber.
with the internet. Man, we're old.
Yeah. Yeah, and the internet just started getting a little bit faster. I could see myself watching a video and not having it get stuck. It actually is pretty decent quality. And you know what else is? The hard drive space is getting cheaper, and the cost of the bandwidth was getting cheaper. So and people, they were willing to spend some time in uploading it because they had a phone or they had a recorder or something. They were basically trying to experiment with this new medium, and it seemed like YouTube was the perfect timing, and it was, because actually you look at the company, there was actually 5 other companies. If you dig deep, that did exactly what they did. And if you dig deep, up down had another company that did exactly what we did. It was called Wall Street Oasis.
Like the name.
Okay. And as an arrogant person, just like anybody, me, Michael, and Georg, we saw that, say, no, we could do better than them. We even called them. We even talked to them, saying, why do you fail? Well, we failed because there wasn't enough users. We couldn't have the retention. The same exact reasons why I told you. And we failed the same way. And guess what happened around 2015? I went to some event, and some students like, I have the best idea. What if we made a social network for finance? And we did this. And I was like, and these guys are from Harvard.
And they're
like,
pitching this to you, like
sophomore. And they actually reached out to me. They said, no, we know you did it. I was like, I'm gonna tell you the same thing. It's not gonna work. Here's the 5 reasons. And I said, you're probably gonna do it anyway. And you're not gonna listen to me. But if you were, here's the reason. Here's the things I would do different. Right? I think we could have won. And I think there was a couple of reasons we lost. Okay, so we didn't lose. We didn't use leverage. There's another kind of leverage, my friend. Okay, it's called SEO.
That's a relatively new leverage, like newish.
It wasn't new in 2006. That's how
true.
Zillow won. That's how all these companies won. Okay. So you know what SEO is, Roberto. Why don't you explain to the audience
It's
what
a
SEO
search
is?
engine optimization. Basically, you make everything on your website just make sense with what people are looking for. Like if somebody with the hard code in the back and everything, and like if you're looking for something, your website should be a reflection of that.
Correct. All right, and I had gone through this like, why did we fail and all this other stuff, like I racked in my brain. And then I always had thought is SEO, and this would kind of transition to the Mass Realty startup, okay? Because the definite answer was SEO, okay? But I want to kind of close out this whole up down thing because I want to show you how we sold up down to Minkabu. Okay, so this is after up down failed many years later. It literally happened like I think like 3-4 years ago, maybe even like less. So maybe around 3-4 years ago, we sold it for less than $2 million. We sold it for tens of thousands of dollars, and we gave that to Yahoo. We gave that to Yahoo as much as we, and basically as much as we can. I mean, it's obviously
here's this and with an apology letter.
Oh, I feel really bad. I should not laugh. When I lost $2 million, I'm laughing because it's sad. I feel embarrassed. I mean, I feel ashamed. And that's something I never do, and I never want to do for anyone, and especially someone who
trusted,
basically invested in us. It wasn't our fault. I mean, we tried our best. But anyway, anyways, where was I going? What was I saying?
That you sold it not long ago.
Okay. Yes. So Minkabu, right? They were a Japanese version, but they didn't have the trading part, and they had gone public in Japan. They'd done very well, and the only difference between what we did and what they did essentially was they added a single question a day. And their claim to fame was they had a question: what do you think about Tesla's earnings today? And they would make that the content of the day, and they would have all the community and amplify all the discussions into 3 or 4 big items every day as a piece of content. And then they had everyone talk about it, and then that became basically evergreen value, meaning that article would sit there as a piece of asset, piece of content, something that people might read. Maybe not a lot after the first version, after the first week. It maybe not matter. Maybe they reference it 5 years later, 2 years later, maybe, but a little bit, a trickle forever. And then that's what's called SEO leverage. Okay. So in a business, you want to create leverage too, where as you work and you build a client, you kind of build more and more value that pays forever. And another company that actually won is a company, I actually won at that time already, was called Seeking Alpha. Have you heard of a company called Seeking Alpha before? Okay. So here's the hustle. Everyone has to have a hustle. Here's the hustle. You got to get someone important to come to your website and write something. Okay. So who's the most important person in finance? The person who works covering stocks, analysts, right? The person who works at Goldman Sachs, the person who works at Putnam Investments, Fidelity, all these big companies, and they're writing reviews, and they have to follow, and part of their job is to listen to these earning reports, basically, right? They have to listen to Tesla's earnings and hear what Elon Musk says and hear what his lieutenant says and look at the details. And it's kind of pain in the butt to sit there for 2 hours listening to some person say something. So you'd love to have a transcript. But you don't have any money. Your boss not going to pay for it. And actually, this service doesn't even exist right now because there's so many small companies that the big companies have transcripts. Like Tesla definitely has transcripts. But let's say you're covering 50 other companies that don't have transcripts. You have to listen to 50 hours or 100 hours of bullshit. Unless you go to Seeking Alpha. Now, Seeking Alpha, all they did was they paid an intern to listen to public data, or maybe just wrote a robot. I don't know, maybe paid a service. And every time there was a transcript,
you read it.
There's only 2,000 companies total the entire stock market. I don't know if you know that. It's very little. Everywhere. Like the entire NASDAQ, total 2,000. It doesn't really matter, right?
It's not bad. 2,000 is very...
No, maybe, yeah, that's it total.
Yeah.
So you can look it up, and that really matters. So basically, you literally, of these writing reports, you have 2,000 pieces of content you get for free. Not free, but $10, $20, $100. Even $1,000 each. Okay? But guess what happens? You got these people coming who work at Goldman Sachs, and they read that transcript because they have to. That's part of their job, and it saves them a ton of time. And they have a discussion board at the bottom that says, "Hey, what do you think of this transcript? Do you think the earnings were good or not?" And then you read an analyst article that predicted the earnings, and this analyst was actually spot on, right? Because they allow the analysts who read these reports to actually write an estimate projection, which, by the way, a regular person has to pay for. In order to, you know what Goldman Sachs sells? They sell this.
Okay.
They sell advice. So if you're a rich person, you say, I want to get the best advice from the best people. You go to Goldman Sachs. They give you secret advice. They only tell you their perfect view of like, hey, I know that through the grapevine that this is going to happen, and they did this research and this is the. But what if you just got that for free because people just wrote it on Seeking Alpha? Because they're all friends and they predict and they could brag how well they predict things. And so Seeking Alpha lets you predict earnings estimates.
Like
now they have the earnings estimates, right? They have the discussion boards, but they stack it. They stack it by doing something easy and getting free data and putting it into the internet. And then everyone can use it for free. Okay? It's pretty cool, right?
Yeah, I'm all for good free information. Yeah.
We didn't do that. We didn't do that at Up Down, right? And if we done that, where we say, hey, let's go ahead and cover something. Let's do earnings reports. Let's make these analysts. Let's get them to be whatever. The Glassdoor working at Goldman Sachs. That's what Glassdoor became. Glassdoor working at different companies. We could have been a Glassdoor working at investment companies, right? We could have been like, hey, why don't you apply for an internship and through your investment trading. Not only that, we can write analyst, which we did, but then that helps you get an internship somewhere, right? And make this like recruiting platform. So there's so many things that we could have done better. In retrospect, I'd love to do social network again, but I'd also do more ethically too, which is like I'd make sure I have controls. But it's something that it's really hard to do, and it's something that for example, people would swear, right? People would swear, but then also there would be robots. So did I tell you about the robots? It seems like over the place. Running a social network was crazy, but there'll be people. Okay, it's crazy. Crazy people. And so, why would you spend hours writing a robot to buy and sell stocks on updown.com so you can win a few cents? So literally what would happen is people want to win the grand prize. So they thought it was like a video game, right? So there'll be these PhD students. There'll be these like hackers, maybe even from Russia or China. And what they would do is they would hack and they would buy and sell stocks. They were penny stocks. You know what penny stocks are? Yeah, so a penny stock is a stock that doesn't get traded that often. Like, it's like someone's small, ricky-dicky business, it's worth a couple $1 million. So there's like 5 shares available, and one share is sold every day for $1. And the next day, another share is sold for $1.25. Okay? That seems reasonable. One share, is $1.25. But if you buy 1 million shares at $1, and then sell 1 million shares tomorrow at $1.25, how much money do you make?
Extra on that one.
You make 25%, right? You make $250,000. Now that this stock is small cap, so someone buys it at $1, and the next day someone buys it at $1.25. The next day it goes at $1, $1.25, $1.25. That's you can see that happening. Very volatile small cap stock. So these people would write robots to literally all day buy and sell between these two positions, millions of shares, and that's not realistic because if you did that in the real internet, in the real market, in the real world, these shares would affect the price. Because it's an auction, right? The stock market is an auction, and it would affect the price. So it would go up and down with the trades that you made, and the more you bought, the more it would go up. There's no way you could buy 1 million shares at $1. You'd have to buy $1 million. It would cost you, by the end, it would cost you $1,000 per share instead of $1 per share because you bid the price up so high that you couldn't even buy, what you thought, right? And you couldn't sell it that fast. Right? Because who would buy it? Who would buy it, right? Just you're the only one crazy enough to buy something that was worth $1 for $1,000 or whatever, $1.25. So the idea is, we had to stop the cheating, and we had to write these algorithms to stop cheating, and we would basically cancel people's accounts, we'd freeze stuff, right? And we'd make make these alerts and all this stuff, and then the data would be messed up, and all these other people, because you had these rankings that would get messed up because people become number one, right? They used to be, so now they take over the top, so you have to punish these people, and you had to start to censor, and then kick people off, and it goes crazy, and then you don't mean to, but maybe you get the wrong person, right? Or maybe something happens, and you have a glitch in your system, and the stock price is wrong, and someone bought a ton of shares at this price, and that price is wrong, and all these things happen, and over time it becomes a customer service nightmare, and the inbox for Up Down was so loaded. We had millions of emails, and I did not even answer 1% of them.
Well, and that's like on a daily basis, so it just keep piling up.
And this is for a shitty. and this is for a shitty social network that only like maybe a million people went to.
Yeah. So you can see like how things fall through the cracks.
Extrapolate that to a couple billion. Yeah, I do not envy those folks. So I could see why.
Well, that's why they mess up all the time. Like at some point, like I get that it's not sustainable, but I mean, like it didn't appear like from one day to another. They're not the first ones. They won't be the last ones. So there is some share of responsibility here.
Right, and so that's it's a sad story, but that's where we are right now with these social networks. That like they're having a hard time. They're good people. They're trying.
But
on the other side,
that's the
they
thing
are
that
making mistakes. It's a fact.
That's the thing that this lady was saying, that they're not trying. Their main objective is profit, and so it's like this is getting me traffic. Fine.
So here's the difference, right? Okay, they're 99% of the people are actually trying. And then the one or two people who make the ultimate decision, it's not even a try or not try. It's an ethical decision. Should I make more money, or should I make sure that the kids are safe? Should I sell ads to politicians, or should I stay out of politics, and make less money and be neutral? Right? Should I censor people, or should I not censor people but I'll lose my advertisers? There's always a balance. Okay, and the person who's wielding the sword. And this is where I start to trash, Mark Zuckerberg. Okay. Mark Zuckerberg is not a good human being. I do not believe, based on what the behavior I've seen, whether it be how he dealt with his original partner and what happened with screwing his partner, okay, because that has happened to me.
Yeah.
It has happened to me by people who I thought were my friends. It's happened to the VC that basically when I had zero out of the 12 million, there's a reason, right? Because even then, even if they sold for 100 million or a billion, I would get probably zero, because I was diluted out, just like Eduardo was diluted out by Mark Zuckerberg, right? He screwed one of his friends out of his fair share.
What happens all the time? Like how Wozniak, the same thing, and like you just keep making these I don't know, like these assholes just like famous and important and giving them power and more power as they do these things.
Right. So there is the man. So there is the man. Mm-hmm. So going back to this, maybe we can close the show with this. The man is Mark Zuckerberg. Yeah. Okay. Everything rests on his decision about yes or no on certain things. And I actually questioned myself. I questioned some of these issues, and I questioned, my maturity, and I asked for advice and all this stuff. And I try to be humble, and I'm not sure Mark Zuckerberg is humble. I'm not sure if he quite listens. And I think that might be his weakness and his downfall. And I think Facebook is going to go down at some point, because someone's going to take over that is actually more ethical. Mm-hmm. And I think consumers today, they're too smart to get fooled by someone like that. They're too smart to get fooled by Victoria's Secret, for example. Like that went down. I didn't expect that to go down, but I thought that
they changed though.
Why do people pay so much? Yeah, because the owner's a freak. He's or John Gruden.
Yeah.
From the Raiders.
Nope.
You hear about the NFL?
What do you say?
This guy is like the NFL broadcaster of NFL football, of like Monday Night Football. He was super popular. He became coach of the Raiders. He was paid $100 million to be coached, and then all these emails come out that he's racist.
Of course.
He hates women, all this other stuff. So that's who the man is. Are just people. People get lucky. Because going back to the timing thing, they're the right spot, the right time. But what do you do with that power when you get it?
It's not for everybody. Like definitely.
The Spider-Man quote. Yeah, the Spider-Man quote.
With great power comes great responsibility.
And I don't think that Mark Zuckerberg has that responsibility, Gene.
No, there's definitely like and I think a lot of people don't. Ethics thing that you need to, like, solid moral and ethics background that you need to support this.
Yeah, and I think Uptown kind of, probably that's probably the last time I felt like I was working on something, and I didn't feel like I wanted to do it super. I just wanted because I was working with smart people, with Michael and Georg, and I wanted to be part of something great, and I thought social networks were the next thing, and I thought this was actually a good service, get people who are regular people, how to empower them with education so they can make more money, so they can leverage their capital, so they can buy a house one day, so they can live more comfortably with their kids, pay for their education. And there's something I actually want to maybe leave with, because, I want to make sure that people understand that, Updown itself was trying to educate people on one simple fact. The only difference between you and a rich person is understanding how to use a system. And let me give you a simple example of how to use a system. Because I was never part of the system. I always try to use the system because I came from another system. I came from Vietnam. I had to learn the system. I created the system. I created a stock market, right? I created the system itself. I assimilated it, right? So we wrote a social network, right? And so ultimately, there's something called the Rule of 70. The Rule of 70 is the only thing you have to remember from this conversation. You can do basic division. Most humans can. So what you do is you take the percentage that you think you can make on the stock market. Let's say 10%, okay? And you take 70, the rule of 70, and you divide 70 by 10. How many years is that?
Divide 70 by 10? 7.
70 divided by 10. 70 divided by 10. 7 years. 7 years, that's how long it's going to take you to double your money. Okay? Let's say I put $10,000 in. Okay? I double my money in 7 years. How much does that become? 20,000, right?
Yeah.
I double in 20. In 14 years, the 20,000 becomes
40,000,
okay. In another 7 years, in 21 years, the 41,000 becomes what?
Yeah, like 82.
80,000. Okay? In basically 28 years, how much does the 80,000 become?
160.
So if you put $10,000 in today,
You got the compound.
Roberto, how old are you right now?
36.
How old are you right now? 36. So in 28 years, how old will you be? So put $10,000 in this year, and you're going to have $160,000 when you retire.
Not bad.
How does that sound? How much does the average person make a year?
Like you're still like this getting to a different conversation. Like you think everything is going to be around in the next 30 years?
No. Well, if your kids will be around.
Hope so.
Hopefully. Right? Hopefully you give them something. So wealth isn't just about you, Roberto. It's about like what you can hand to your offspring, right? And what kind of a legacy you can leave. Okay. Okay. But you know how the average stock market return is around 8-10%. Okay. Let's say you do 15%. Okay. 15%. That's how much these hedge funds make, by the way. That's how much these private equity guys, the private investments that Harvard does, all the endowments. These guys are looking for what's called alpha. That's a little bit more than the stock market. 15% is pretty good. Okay, let's say consistent, right? What's 70 divided by 15? How many years is that, Roberto? So, Roberto? I couldn't hear that. What did you say? 70 divided by 15 is 4.5 years, right? 4.5 years, your money becomes 20,000. In 9 years, your money becomes 40,000. In 13.5 years, your money becomes 80,000. Okay, right? In 18 years, your money becomes 160,000. Okay. In 21 and a half years, your money becomes 320,000. In 25 years, whatever it is, right? Your money becomes 720,000, right? 360,000, sorry. And then 28 years, the same amount of years, right? It becomes $720,000.
See, and that's like with relatively small amounts within the realm of like putting money stuff aside. Like I know 10 grand might be like You
put $10,000 into Warren Buffett's, the stock Berkshire Hathaway. You put money in Berkshire Hathaway, you earn more than that.
You have, yeah.
I'm just giving you an example of like, someone's pretty good. Yeah. So if you put 10,000 right now, you will be a millionaire.
And we don't have to do anything. You're just there. Just park your money in that place.
Okay, exactly. And that's that's what Updown was about. It's like teaching average people. Like that's what Robinhood is about. And that's why I'm so happy that Robinhood exists, because Robinhood deserves to exist. Regular people, they need access to this, right? They need access to what rich people have, which is just an education about how it works. It works because you have this leverage. This leverage is you got this money. You got to put $10,000 in. You don't think about it. Someone else thinks about it. Like go to invest in a fund. Invest in something. Invest in a company like ours. Go to Republic. Go to the private markets to invest in the next Uber or Facebook or us or something like that, right? Go invest if you want. Bitcoin, I don't do Bitcoin. I don't believe in stock markets anymore and Bitcoin and investing in general, just because I believe I can add more value as a technologist, as someone who makes things instead of investing in things. But if you want to invest in things, think about it this way, right? If you don't do it, it will never happen. And if you do it wisely, you're gonna basically wake up with a couple $100,000 when you're 64, for your kids, for your vacation, for your shelter, your nuclear shelter. When the world goes to shit, right? Right, Roberto, like you said,
buy water,
and you're gonna need that. Yeah, and and just to close out, in terms of how Updown landed. So the company was doing badly. Georg actually, another incident that actually maybe I want to bring up a little bit is, at some point, Georg and Michael, they had to graduate Harvard Business School, and they had to do the immigration path to stay here and get the ability to work here, like a visa to work.
Paperwork.
So they had entered lottery. In the lottery, Michael won and Georg didn't. Even though they're both from Harvard Business School, they're both very qualified, very smart people, very educated, definitely people who you want in this country. And Georg was essentially had to go back to Iceland. So he left Updown. So those shares, he gave back some of the shares. We worked out some of the stuff. But here's why immigration policy is messed up, because he should have stayed, right? And we could have maybe done a little bit better. But I don't think it would have mattered too much. But Georg went on to start another company in Iceland. And during the financial crisis, which literally happened in 2008, 2009, 2009, which is when the company went down, Updown went down because of that. The financial crisis went down at the end of Updown, and that's why it went down, because all the money for the advertising dried up. All the brokerages, the stock market was in turmoil. Yahim was like, okay, we're not going to put any more money in investments. I mean, no one was investing in anything. And Updown was going down. But, Georg has left before that. But after that whole financial crisis, Georg started a company called Menega. During the financial crisis in Iceland, he worked with an Iceland bank to basically help educate people of how to use their money to spend it more wisely from the bank's point of view. Basically, a mint.com, basically a personal advice. Here's your bank. Your bank knows what you spend money on. You spend money on this, this, and this. Yeah, there's a credit card here that if we give you this credit card, you might save like 3%, or we can repackage your loan this way. So basically, he sold software like that, and now his company has probably raised $15 million. Has a couple hundred people working for him, and is actively very profitable. Michael, left. Stay obviously with Updown. We tried to work it out, it didn't work out. So he left with his girlfriend Karen to go back to go to Germany, and now he's working at Language International. It's a startup where they do travel, and you can do travel to learn a language.
Yeah.
So it's called Language International. Language International, right? And they're doing that German. It's a nice business. They're making $2 million a year. They have a family. It's a nice lifestyle business. Nothing super big, nothing super small, but good enough, right?
Like it sustains their needs, and they're happy.
I was out. And I was the last one. Like last time. Seth had left. Wally, I was the last one before I left. And so to wind it down, I just kept Updown running, and I was like, what am I gonna do next? And I said, either I can go back to consulting, which I got some consulting projects, which I did, but let me incubate this whole SEO thing. Let's start Mass Realty, but instead of paying $2,000 a month on ads, because that's how much I was paying back. Just a reminder, one of my consulting projects was to build a real estate website, for a customer. I said I could do that for myself, so I built my own website called Mass Realty. My wife was doing it. I paid ads for her to get traffic, and she was selling houses. I was a broker, and I said, let me see if I can not pay ads, because the site was already working. Let me just change it a little bit. Let me do more SEO friendly stuff. Let me try to learn all this content, and let's see how I can do. So I put myself on unemployment for up down because I had to, because we were shutting down the company. They lost the money. You had to responsibly close down and give everyone unemployment. And during that time, the best time to start a business is when the economy crashes. So the entire economy had crashed. Boom! Lehman Brothers, everything just crashed. And Obama, was, the first, he was sworn in. He's like, I'm going to give everyone extra unemployment. Just like right now during COVID, right? Extra unemployment.
Free money.
So I went, the best time to start a business during free money time. So I got free money. I got free healthcare, because they said, what's called COBRA is like when you leave your company, you basically get healthcare and pay for it for yourself. But during this time, people didn't have money, so you didn't have to pay for yourself. The government would just pay for you. Great. So you had free healthcare and unemployment for like 12 months. And I said, well, let me incubate something outside while, figure out what to do next, and maybe do some consulting if I can. And I basically said, let me start Mass Realty, and let me do this Adsense thing. And that's why I explained to you this Adsense thing. I'm telling you this hustle thing. Let me hustle. Let me just side hustle. I've never quit my job and never did anything to jeopardize my family. I just got married. 2006, 2008, I had my first child. 2010, the company started crashing. So I was like, I have a 2-year-old daughter. What am I gonna do? A responsibility. And then, so it's one of those things where 2011. I had my son as well. So what am I gonna do during this time? So basically before my son, but after my daughter, that's when Updown was going down. I said, let me do this Mass Realty thing. Let's see how much I can make on Google AdSense. So July, I did it, and then around January, we were making $1,000 a month. $1,000 a month, $12,000 a year, right? $1,000 a month. So in 6 months, Mass Realty went from $0 to $1,000 a month, and I could show you the chart. We'll show you the chart. Maybe I could add this chart to this podcast. But it went from $1,000 a month to within 4 years, we were making $43,000 a month on AdSense alone. $500,000, just me and my wife and a couple of people, and that'll be the next podcast. How we started Mass Realty. But Mass Realty is the SEO play. When I learned Mass Realty, I've teased you, but we grew from $0 to $1 million plus in less than 4 years. In 4 years, we went from $0 to $1 million plus. I could have been a millionaire at that time too. But I put all my money into this roller coaster that was going really fast, and then Google changed the algorithm.
They changed the rules on you,
and
like halfway through the game. I'm like, man, like what are you doing? Next time. So
next time, and so that's what it's like Charlie Brown. I always try to kick the ball. It didn't quite make it, but going back to how we started this episode, and I'll end it with strong. We signed several contracts for Phuc Labs recently, and we just got some other leads, and I'm pretty sure we're gonna be super rich, and all this will be worth it. So stay tuned, Phucsters. This will all pan out. I'm not Charlie Brown.
Kick that ball. See you guys next time.
All right. Thanks.